Well, good morning, everyone. Um, as I'm making sure that I'm actually online. Um, you haven't seen me for a while, so it's good to be back with you all. Um, looks like I am coming through. Um, so yeah, if you're joining us as we start every day, I'd love for you to share with me places where you've seen beauty, truth, and goodness in this world, places where you found hope, inspiration. Yeah, where has that been for you? For those that don't know, my family and I took a little vacation. We went up to Yellowstone for part of the time and then kind of did a staycation. We camped a little bit. So, where I've seen beauty, truth, and goodness, Yellowstone is beautiful. The Grand Tetons. We got to swim in Glacier Lake, two different lakes underneath the Grand Tetons. Um, that just breathed life into my soul and my spirit. Um, it was wonderful to disconnect. I was going to say from real life, but uh, from life and reconnect to real life, maybe to reconnect in that way. Um, so, yeah, I'm trying to find ways to get you. Well, I'm not able to see comments yet. Shoot. And let me. Three Springs as we've moved into our new house. We got mostly settled in with so much change and transition in general. There's just never a better time than to pile on the change and transition on top of each other. And so that's what we thought we would do. And so we moved in the middle of all of this um, that's going on. But today, I'm talking about Paul. If you're following along our meditation moments, 2 Corinthians 11 for today, Paul is the following. Ministers of Christ, I am talking like a madman. I'm better with far greater labors, far more imprisonments, with countless floggings, and often near death. 5 times I have received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus 1. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I received a stoning. 3 times I was shipwrecked for a night and a day. I was adrift at sea, 1 frequent journeys, in danger from rivers, danger from bandits, dangers from my own people, dangers from Gentiles, dangers in the city, dangers in wilderness, dangers at sea, dangers from false brothers. Who am I not weak? Who is made to stumble? Am I not indignant? If I boast, this is Paul's boasting. I will boast of the things that show my weakness. The God and Father of the Lord Jesus, blessed be he forever, knows that I do not lie. As the governor under King Aretas guarded the city of Damascus in order to see let down, but I was down in a basket through a window and a wall and escaped hands. So Paul is saying the kind of interesting to brag about, to share his struggles and everything he's all right. I'm on. I can see myself. I can hopefully find your comment. No. On Raymond. Glad Raymond Luann had prayers. Thank you guys for being. We'll continue to pray for her. So here, Paul is doing these things and boasting and saying, "This is what I boast in." It's not exactly ideal. It's not exactly a life we might strive to talk about. and so us to wrestle with, and I'll come back and home. You're sounding weird and slow. Shoot, I don't know what to do about that. Um, Other than that, it works itself out, but we'll see. The two questions: greatest insight you have gained this year in 2020. What is the greatest insight that you have taken away so far from 2020? And the second is, what have you most learned about yourself this year? What has 2020 taught you about yourself? The American Psychological Association wrote this article as we're talking about resilient faith, and says resilience is the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. In other words, resilience is a process of adapting well to 2020. Resilience doesn't mean that a person won't experience difficulty or distress. Same is true for faith. People who have suffered major adversity or trauma in their lives commonly experience emotional pain and stress. In fact, this article says that the road to resilience is likely to involve considerable emotional stress. Well, while certain factors make some individuals more resilient than others, resilience isn't necessarily a personality trait that only some people possess. I think, as we're talking about the Enneagram too, I think some Enneagram are more resilient than others. I think my wife is more resilient than I am, just in general. It takes me longer to adjust. It takes me longer to bounce back. It takes me longer sometimes to see the positive, to overcome. On the contrary, though, resilience involves behaviors, thoughts, and actions that anyone can learn and develop. In other words, this is my own takeaway in this. Resilience is forged in the difficult circumstances that we all will inevitably face. Resilience is forged in the difficult circumstances that we will all inevitably face. 2020 has been a grand invitation, right, to greater resilience for all of us. Paul didn't just wake up one day and have resilient faith. He's probably the model, right, of resilient faith. Many people, by the way, as we're talking about the Enneagram, we'll talk about Paul being an Enneagram type 1 as a great teacher, one who is pretty black and white thinking thought process and clear, easily understood. But Paul's difficult life experiences created an opportunity for his faith to adapt, to grow, to evolve in the face of difficult circumstances. So the article is talking about resilience, and we are talking about resilient faith, looking at the life of Paul. And the article is saying resilience is like building a muscle. Increasing your resilience, you can do that. It's like exercising that muscle. It takes time and it takes intentionality. And it talked about 4 specific components that I just wanted to go over today, because I think resilience in general and resilient faith they overlap completely. So what does it mean to have resilient faith? It's the same as being a resilient person. And we add the faith component to that. So the 4 core components that they talked about, which I found helpful, and hopefully maybe you'll find some of this helpful, especially during this season, this year. The 4 things. First, it was connection. Second, wellness. Third, healthy thinking. And the 4th is meaning. So first, connection. They talked about this idea of prioritizing relationships, finding a small group, reaching out to people, finding those connections, even if not physical, by reaching out via phone, by making sure you feel and you understand you're not alone in this. By the way, if you are feeling that way, if you are feeling alone, feel free to reach out to us at church. We have a page you can contact us. If you're looking for a small group, we have different small groups going on that start and finish at different times during the week. And there's a lot of things. I think I've been a part of several different ones and jumped into different people's small groups. And one of the things that I hear the most is that these small groups have probably been one of the most, if not the most important thing in their life, even more than attending weekend services, even though we can't gather publicly consistently together, or right now we're choosing not to, um, for the time being, that even gathering via Skype or Zoom in small groups, those are those connections. And there's something behind that about resilience in the face of all kinds of things and changes in 2020, that relationships, we realize, matter immensely and help us overcome. The second thing was wellness. There's three parts. They talked about taking care of your body. And this idea came to my mind again and again, which I think we all know and we've talked about before, is we're not just spiritual beings. We're not just physical beings. We're not just emotional. Our body, we're composed of all of that. The food we put in our bodies, how we exercise, if we get out, all of those things shape and form our overall well-being. The second thing I talked about was practice mindfulness, prayer, contemplative prayer has been really helpful for me. But I think just finding times of intentionally not just zoning out, not just watching TV, but saying, okay, I'm going to connect to source. I'm going to find stillness, silence, and solitude in the midst of this. And then the third thing that really actually spoke to me, it says, avoid negative outlets. And it said this: might be tempting to mask your pain with alcohol, drugs, or other substances, but that's like putting a bandage on a deep wound. Focus instead on giving your body resources to manage stress rather than seeking to eliminate the feeling of stress altogether. Focus instead on giving your body resources to manage stress. No matter who you are, where you are in life, what your age is, in 2020, you have been under stress. Some of us maybe more so than others in different circumstances due to all kinds of different things. But in 2020, we have been under stress. Rather than trying to eliminate it, how do we figure out ways to manage it? So this question came to mind: what do you do that helps your body resource to manage stress? What do you do? Do you take walks? Do you exercise? Do you spend time in your garden? Do you spend time hiking? What do you do? Do those things on a regular basis. They're absolutely vital. We just moved out to Three Springs, and one of the things I know for me is exercise and resistance training. And since COVID, I haven't done that. I've tried different things. I tried running for a little bit. Hiking is another one of those. So I was able to do that off and on, but I haven't been able to do resistance training. So I came out to Three Springs right now. I'm in a trial membership here at the gym, Anytime Fitness, and trying that. And just on the third day, and I already feel a night and day difference. So for me, I know that's important. But what is it important for you? So that we don't try to mask in the midst of this. And if you find yourself doing that, I mean, give yourself some a little compassion. I think we've all done a fair share of that, whether that's whatever that might be, whatever that might look like for us. I think, but I think it's healthy to realize, oh, this is a band-aid. This isn't actually helping. This is just putting it on and kind of a temporary relief, and it's all right. It helped. I got through one more day, whatever. But what are those things that our body really needs? How do we manage stress rather than seeking to just eliminate it? How do we figure that out and ask yourself those questions? A third thing is healthy thinking. Keep things in perspective, accept change, maintain a hopeful outlook. This is where faith should come into play big time. A hopeful outlook and trusting that God is working in the midst of that. As we look at the life of Paul and all the things that Paul went through, knowing that God was working through all of that, makes my life look pretty easy, to be honest. Makes our life first world problems for the most part. But maintain a hopeful outlook. And the fourth thing is meaning. Finding meaning in the midst of this. One of the things he said is there's single parents out there trying to make it through. There's families trying to figure out how do you juggle school and where do our kids go. There's ways to help. your neighbors. You have people in your life, your family. Um, there's some folks that are older that are by themselves at their homes. What would it look like to take a walk with them, or to stop by and just to say hi? What does it look like to move beyond ourselves? And actually, that's where we find the most joy in life, in the midst of everything else that's going on. And the other thing it says, and I kind of added this, is what can I do instead of what can't I do? What can I do? It's easy for me to look at all the things I can't do. That's my personality. I go. If we talked about the Enneagram 4 personality, but I go to the negative quicker. Um, and gratitude practice is one of those that's hard for me. Um, so what can you do? Be proactive. The article talked about it's helpful to acknowledge and accept your emotions during hard times, but it's all bite. But if you get okay, what are the next? What can you do to create a new resume? What are those steps? Those are important. Being and in finding resilience is doing well in the face of adversity. The process of adapting well. Again, as resilient understood it, didn't get easy. It came was birthed and for and struggle. The weekly memory verse is this: God blesses those who patient temptation. With that, like, yeah, patiently temptation is easier said than done. Afterward, James says, "You will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love." In this season, I feel like my phone froze, so hopefully I'm coming through. But again, I'll end with a question, and I'll try to look online to see if I can find it. But in this season, what is the greatest insight you've gained this year? What have you most learned about yourself this year? What is that? Can you share that? Because I think that helps us become more resilient. It helps us look at, okay, actually, there's things that we're learning. There's things that I've learned about myself. One of the greatest insights that I've gained this year is that there's so much going on that matters, but that doesn't matter. There's so much that I can't control. There's so much that I think I can control that I can't. Um, I've also learned family is absolutely vital. It's the most important thing. And um, yeah, so we go from there. I'll be curious to read the things that you put down. What is the greatest insight you have gained this year? What is the most you have learned about yourself this year? James chapter 1, which is our what we call our weekly memory verse. I'll read it in the Message translation because I love reading different translations as it illuminates different aspects. It says this: "Consider it a sheer gift, friends, when tests and challenges come at you from all sides. You know that under pressure, your faith life is forced into the open, and it shows its true colors. So don't try to get out of anything prematurely. Let it do its work so you become mature, well developed, not deficient in any way." Oh, how I want to get out of anything that's difficult prematurely. I don't want to let it do its work in me. Paul understood this. To have resilient faith means you sit in the tension of what is, and you don't too quickly try to get out of it. Let it do its work. What is that work? What is it teaching you today? Resilient faith is forged in the difficult circumstances that we all will inevitably face, that we all are facing. What is it? Let it do its work. So that's all I have for today. I'll try to jump on and interact. Hopefully, Even if you're watching this later on, you'll be able to share those two things, and it helps us understand. Instead of looking at what we can't do, instead of looking at the problems, what is it teaching us? What is it showing us? What is it revealing to us? How is our faith growing? How are we able to sit in it and let it do its work? So I look forward to reading that all from you. It's great to be back with you, and I look forward to connecting with you. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. All right.